Hi, welcome to the second video of the video series. Today we are going to talk about a very important aspect which comes under the umbrella of SLP. That's the oromotor assessment, oromotor therapy, or basically oromotor intervention also many of you all call us. So what's oromotor in general? So basically it involves motor aspects of the oral structures. Motor aspect meaning the movement, the strength, the accuracy, the range, all those things of the oral structures which are essential for speech, essential for swallowing, for feeding, all those purposes. So for that, first we need to assess it in a very organized manner. Then looking at what is lacking and why it's lacking, you move ahead and go for treatment of the oromotor weakness or whatever you want to call it. Basically, the entire oromotor umbrella is divided into three parts. Number one, you assess for the range of the movement. Number two, you assess for the accuracy of movement. And number three, you assess for the strength of the movement. All these things need to be assessed in three different situations. One is at rest, second is during a speech task, third is during a non-speech task. Now let me tell you all about all these six things in detail. So number one is what do you assess? So you assess the range of movement. When I say range of movement, it means what is the maximum possibility of the movement available into both the extremities. If you are talking about left or right, if you are talking about up and down, the maximum possible movement to the extremities possible without any injury, without any pain, without any sort of physical problem associated. So we are talking about lips. Range would be how much is the lip retraction, how much is the lip protrusion, how much is the extent to which the jaw is opening, closing, how much is it going to the left, how much is it going to the right, tongue same way, the left, the right, the up, the down, all of that. Basically first step is assess the range. Is it moving? A, is it moving actively or is it moving passively? Now when I say active versus passive, active is when the patient himself is able to do it. So he himself is able to do like that. So both the movements are there, like left and right lip retraction is there actively. Patient did it on his own. You didn't have to do anything. But when I say passively, you need to give them a support on either side. For example, if the lip retraction is something like you gave the passive support over here, so the lip retraction is present actively on the right side and it's absent or passive support is needed for the left side. So you assess range. Then you assess for the accuracy. When I say accuracy, when it comes to any of the articulators, accuracy is how accurately your tongue is making a precise movement that you expect it to make. So more so it is to do with the sound production, because if you are asking the adult to produce the sound like pa 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 for your DDK task, and the person is not able to do pa pa when something like something like that, which means that the accuracy is not there. At the same time, the slurring of speech is there. So one thing that rings a bell is that when the person has slurred speech, of course the tongue is not able to go there, make a firm movement, come down, go there, come down. No. So that tells you that the range, the accuracy is affected. You assess accuracy for lips, you assess accuracy for tongue. Tongue you can also do it if you are talking about children, that you can put little chocolate syrup or something like an orange candy or something, and you just stick it on the palate and you ask him to touch the tongue over there. He is able to do it, it's very much accurate. Last important point is the strength. When we talk about strength, you do two things. One, how much is the patient able to sustain a particular movement of the articulator, and second, how much is he able to sustain with resistance. More so resistance come into picture when you are talking about the strength. So for my lips, I would expect the person to do retraction and hold it for the count of 10. That's without any resistance. But when it comes to jaw and tongue, you need to assess it against the resistance also. For example, if the jaw is open, you will ask the patient that I am going to push it from down and you have to resist my movement and make sure that the jaw is open. Something like that. Same way, if it's closed, you would ask him to do a close movement and you will be trying to open it where he has to sustain the close movement. This is the strength part of it. The tongue also needs the same way, so you push it on the sides, hold it, hold it. These are the basic 3 functions that come into the picture when you're talking about oromotor. But there are other things also. For example, there are higher skills involved when your entire oral cavity is concerned. For example, blowing, sucking, swallowing, spitting, gargling. These are the vegetative functions, but these are the ones that are getting affected, if at all if it's affected in a patient, because the oromotor structures are weak. For blowing, I need a complete coordination right from my lips to my cheek muscles to the palate and the velum. So basically all of them work in synchronization and make sure that the blowing act is happening. Same happens with sucking. Swallowing, you all know the entire pathway from the lips to the esophagus, in fact to the pharynx, is completely intact and giving the support that's needed. Spitting, gargling, though we don't work actively on that, but of course these two also require. So spitting is actually opposite of what is blowing. So in spitting, you expect the patient to just spit it out, wherein the muscles are trying to force it out. Rather than blowing it, they are trying to force it in. In sucking, I'm so sorry. Spitting and sucking are opposite. So they are trying to force it in. So you need to assess that also and make sure that all these things are present for at rest movement. At rest meaning at rest, how is the symmetry, how is the location of the tongue. Basically at rest you find for any deviation, you look for any sort of weakness as in fasciculation, you go for fibrillation, check all of this at rest. Then you go to non-speech movement. When I say non-speech movement and I am assessing the lips, I would ask the patient to just do these are the non-speech movements, but the speech movements would be involving saying pa 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 pa. Same way go to jaw. In jaw you just expect the patient to do up, down, left, right, everything against the resistance or without the resistance, everything, and then you expect the patient to do the speech movement. So basically all the sounds involve jaw movement. When you are assessing jaw, you more so are assessing the tongue also, because jaw up, down, jaw left, right, all these are by far and large associated with the tongue movement. But that's the catch. When you are assessing the jaw, you expect the tongue to also have some involvement, but not to the extent which is beyond normalcy. That's when you start calling the condition as tongue-jaw dissociation absent. Because if I hold my jaw down like that, my tongue is still moving. But there are patients whom you say that you need to close your mouth, you need to take your tongue up, and you are holding it. The first thing that happens is, the moment tongue goes up, jaw goes up. The moment tongue goes left, which is abnormal. So the dissociation is not there. Make sure that the dissociation is happening. Make sure that the tongue and the jaw can move independently. But then there are certain sounds where they have to go dependent on each other. That's normal. This, what I just shown is abnormal. Then you go to the major articulator, that's your tongue. For tongue, you assess all the movements at rest. Like at rest, you just see how the tongue is deviated, fasciculations there, fibrillations are there, any sort of tremor is there. Then you go for your non-speech things, where you do protrusion, retraction, left, right, elevation, all those are your non-speech. Sometimes you even do for retroflexion, where the tongue goes like complete curling, that's there. And then you go for speech movements. When you do speech movements, you go for ta 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 ta, ka 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 ka. So in speech movement, you basically assess the accuracy of the movement. And then you go to your vegetative function. You do blowing, you do sucking, you even do sometimes swallowing if you are suspecting any sort of nerve involvement. So this is in general how you go about doing oromotor assessment. In my next video, I will be talking about how do we go about managing each of the oromotor structures. Thank you.